haideți să vedem ce ne rezervă zona de executive search în 2021. Și pentru asta o să schimb în engleză și o să-l invit pe Philippe să ne povestească mai multe despre acest subiect. Philippe, thank you for being with us. If you can open your camera. If not, I will try to do it for you. Hello? Can you hear us?
Hello. Yes, I can. Hello, everybody.
Hello. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
So did you enjoy our video? Can you see?
I did. It was quite emotional. I loved it.
So what about your presentation? If you can give us just some glimpse about what you're going to speak about.
Okay. I wanted to highlight 10 new trends I see in the field of leadership assessment. I have been in this business of leadership assessment for 30 years now. I created 10 years ago the Boston Consulting Group Leadership and Talent Practice, and I led the practice globally for 8 years. And I joined Alexander Hughes 2 years ago to lead the human capital consultant subsidiary of the group. And as it does not appear at all with the name, we are a French executive search group based in Paris. I talked to you, I'm here at the foot of the Eiffel Tower, so we could not be more French. And we acquired Alexander Hughes in London 20 years ago. And as the brand was famous in the Anglo-Saxon world, we decided to keep the brand for the group. But we are a French-based group operating in 46 countries, including in Romania.
So thank you for your brief introduction. Philippe, you've joined Alexander Hughes in 2019, right?
Yes, I did.
And when you join it, you also design a client fit appraisal solution. I found this in your bio, and I think it's quite interesting. If you can say a few words about that also.
Yeah, in fact, client fit is a methodology I have been working on for the last 14 years. It started when I was the president and CEO of DDI in Europe. DDI is the global leader for leadership assessment. A US-based company headquartered in Pittsburgh. And we started working at this time on a new concept of assessment. We were the global leader in the old-fashioned assessment center. We had a huge market share, but we felt we had to change it. And we started to work on a new methodology. This methodology improved when I joined BCG 10 years ago, and it's one step further improved 2 years ago when I joined Alexander Hughes. So that's a new client fit approach.
Okay, super. So I'm super curious to hear your presentation and those 10 trends that you've noticed in executive search. We are ready to start when you are.
I am ready.
So you have the floor. We'll see you soon.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So first trend I observed in those last 30 years working on leadership assessment, there used to be a huge range of costs associated with leadership assessment. You have companies like Korn Ferry who would sell at a price of 250 euros a test product that they would call assessment. And on the other part of the range, you would have companies like Egon Zehnder who would sell an assessment for a cost around 12,000 euro per participant. This was old time. Today, we see this range narrowing into a 3,000 euro, 9,000 euro bracket, depending on the type of assessment you use and the type of methodology you develop. The second trend is the old-fashioned half or full day assessment center. All of us have heard about or have practiced those assessment centers with in-basket exercises, with role plays, with observers are out. why those old-fashioned assessment centers are out? Because participants more and more think that it's time-consuming, it's not representative of their real day-to-day work environment, and not really insightful. So the global market in assessment is moving toward fully digitalized solution, much faster, much more insightful, much more precise in assessing leaders' leadership potential, and fully online feedback sessions. And in fact, during the last year of the pandemic, we observed an explosion of demand for such services, for assessment services, a real explosion, especially for development assessment. And in fact, that's the third trend that I observe. In my life of 30 years of conducting leadership assessments, for 29 years, it was a 50-50 split between selection assessment and development assessment. Today, we see an explosion of development assessment. We still have the same volume of demand for selection assessment. And as an executive search firm, you may understand that we do a lot of selection assessments. But in fact, the demand for development assessment exploded, especially assessment that will be initial parts of a leadership development program. Trend number 4, culture fit is a key element of a success profile. Typically, you cannot anymore assess a leader without taking into account culture fit issues, which does not mean that everybody should be exactly of the same profile. You may have different profiles in a single company, but in a single company, you have an as-is culture and you have a to-be culture. Just as an illustration, this is an 8-dimensional model that we use at Alexander Hughes to describe organizations' cultures. Those are 8 bidimensional dimensions, like companies who are more structured or more flexible, companies who are more controlling or more delegating. And the type of methodology we use when we start working with a client is to help them be very clear with what is the as-is culture in the organization and what is the to-be culture. And that could be differences between the as-is culture and the to-be culture, because, for example, we could be very proud and very satisfied with some elements of our present cultural DNA, but we may want to change part of it. And we may decide that the world is changing, our strategy is evolving, our competition is disrupting. So we may decide that we want to change a few elements of our cultural DNA. And we have to be very clear with which elements of the cultural DNA we want to change and in which direction we want to go. And we synthesize or even crystallized those 8 dimensions into a very simple 4-quadrant compass, with a quadrant around competition, a quadrant around creativity, a quadrant around collaboration, and a quadrant around control. Because basically you have 4 basic types of corporate cultures. You have organizations which are very competitive, meaning we are here to get results as soon as possible. You have organizations which are much more creative. We are here to innovate, to adapt permanently to our clients' needs and the evolution of those needs. You have organizations which are very collaborative, and you have organizations which are very controlling. We have to define the processes and the tools that will help us to deliver results in a sustainable and qualitative manner. Trend number 5, soft skills are essentials. of course, we conduct hard skills assessments. We conduct assessments where we combine hard skills and soft skills. But what really matters are soft skills. The soft skills are what make or break a leader. And the higher a leader is positioned in an organization, the less important the hard skills. In fact, the hard skills are necessary skills. And to be at a high position in an organization, of course, the individual had to demonstrate a few hard skills and acquired expertise, acquired experience. But what really matters is not anymore hard skills, which made his or her success in the first part of his or her career. What really matters are soft skills, the ability to lead people. And in fact, there is a direct connection between the 4 types of culture at organization level I described a few minutes ago, and 4 basic leadership styles. Because in fact, what makes an organization culture is its past and present leadership. And you have competitive organizations because you have competitive leaders. You have creative organizations because you have leading leaders who are very creative. You have collaborative organizations because you have leaders who are collaborative, and you have controlling organizations because some leaders are very controlling. And here starts the difficulty of leadership, because we understand pretty well intellectually that we have to adapt to very different situations. In some situations, we have to be very controlling. In others, we have to be very creative. In some situations, we have to be very competitive. In others, we have to be collaborative. But those 2 diagonals are oppositions, paradoxes. It's very hard to be at the same time controlling and creative, as it is very hard to be at the same time collaborative and competitive. So, though we understand that we have to adapt our leadership style to very different and unpredictable situations with agility, it's hard to do. And in fact, each of us, every leader, has his or her comfort zone, which is usually one and only one of those 4 quadrants. And when times are tough, when we are stressed, when we have to make tough decisions, we will have tendency to come back to our comfort zone and exert the type of leadership we know how to exert. And it's very hard to adapt its own leadership style, and that's what we call agility, in fact. Trend number 6. I have been using more than 300 test solutions in my career. Everything from OPQ, SHL, Insight, DISC, anything you could think of. A few years ago, there was a big competition among those 300 global solutions for tests. There is no competition anymore. When you talk top leadership assessment, there is a winner, and the winner takes all. And this winner is Hogan. I am delivering assessments in 46 countries today, with many different cultures. All across those 46 regions, Hogan has become #1 solution for top executive assessment and a hypo assessment, in fact. And we have been working with Hogan for 14 years now, because 14 years ago, we could not answer a core question, which was, is there such a thing as a personality trait which would have a strong relationship with leadership potential? And we worked with Hogan to answer this question. We developed a database of 7 million leaders in 40 different countries. And we answered this question. You have, as you may know, if you use new Hogan solutions today, 28 Hogan personality traits, which have a very strong correlation with leadership potential. And they can be grouped in 3 groups. The yellow group with 7 key levers of performance that we could call forces of leaders. A blue group of 10 key motivations. Motivations, etymology is in French or in Latin, and I guess in Romanian, is what motivates you to move to action. And in fact, it's a very good indication, those values, those motivations, of the energy level of a leader. And you have a third group here in red with those famous potential derailers. And in fact, the concept of derailers, which is now used by all HR organizations globally, was coined by this research we conducted with Hogan in the last 14 years, because we discovered that 11 of the 18 key strengths of a leader are very special because they are dangerous. If you push them too far, if you overplay those strengths, they could become handicaps. And that's what we call a challenge or a potential derailer. For example, an attention to detail could easily transform into micromanagement if you don't care about it. And what we did is this client fit assessment solution we were talking about a few minutes ago. And through this client fit methodology, we know how to extract from Hogan 5 things that, to my knowledge, none other assessment solution can extract. 1, we can extract the leadership potential of an individual. Second, we can extract the agility level of an individual, meaning his or her ability to adapt his or her leadership style to unpredictable leadership situations. Third, we know how to calculate emotional stability of a leader. Is the person subject to potential derailers or not? What would be the risk? What is the level of those risks? And more importantly, how can we prevent those risks and mitigate it? 4, we know how to calculate a culture fit. When you know exactly which culture you want to develop in an organization, we can assess any individual in terms of level of culture fit with the target culture. And we may have a leader who would have a very high potential, who would be very agile, who would have a very controlled emotional stability, but who would not fit at all with what you are looking for from a cultural point of view. And at last but not least, we can measure the energy level of an individual. And we know how to use the 28 Hogan spikes or potential personality traits on this 4-dimensional compass. How can we read this? It means that, for example, in the bottom right quadrant of the compass, if somebody has inquisitive or sociability qualities, it will help this person to embody a creative leadership style. In the opposite quadrant, in the upper left part of the compass, if the same person has adjustment or prudence qualities, it will help this individual to embody a controlling leadership style, which is as useful in other situations. So we know exactly, coming out of an assessment, where does an individual sit? And that's a real case where this lady, Melanie, you can see her scores in the 4 quadrants, meaning that she has, for example, 62% of the personality traits required to embody a collaborative leadership style, but she has only 18% of the qualities required to embody a competitive leadership style. And you can see her spikes where she would be excellent as a leader, and you can see her potential derailers with those red flags and yellow flags being moderate risk, red flag being a high level of risk of derailment. New trend number 7, it's very easy to observe past performance of a leader. That's what you do every day. You know where this individual comes from, the level of performance that he or she demonstrated in the past. What really matters are 2 other subjects. Subject number 1, the future leadership potential of this individual. Subject number 2, the present role readiness of this individual. In fact, 2 questions. Has this individual who has been performing up to now the potential to go through new leadership levels in the organization or not? And secondly, is this person ready now for the next step or not? Somebody could have a very high level of potential in the future, but not be ready now for the next step. So those are 2 different questions. Trend number 8, we know now how to assess future leadership potential. Future leadership potential based on our 7 million leaders data analysis, data crunching, artificial intelligence techniques we used. We know that future leadership potential is a combination of the number of personality traits which matters the person has, plus the leadership agility of this individual, combined with the emotional stability of this individual, combined with the culture fit with the organization, combined with the level of energy of the person. And this is a real assessment of this person, Melanie, on all of those dimensions. You can see, for example, that she would be in red, a little bit weak in the competitive and drive dimension of leadership. She would be strong at a 62% level in the collaboration and interpersonal sensitivity dimension of leadership. She would have a very low emotional stability level because she has many potential derailers. She would be very high in agility with a 79 index because she knows how to adapt her leadership style to different situations. Trend number 9, we know today how to assess present role readiness. Present role readiness is another combination of self-insight on the soft skills which matters, meaning has the person the ability of really understanding his or her weaknesses and strengths, combined with expertise and experience, the hard skills, combined with motivation and energy. And this is a real case for this Melanie lady. You can see in the top of this slide a Johari window for Melanie, meaning taking into account her potential derailers. Is she aware of those potential derailers or not? And you can see that many of them would be in a blind spot zone of the Johari window, meaning that her perception of her potential derailers is lower than the perception of others, which means that she does not know herself very well. That's the reason why you have this red traffic light in front of it. Combined with her expertise, which is very good, her experience, which is weak, she has a low level of hard skills, combined with a high level of motivation for working for the company, but a low level of motivation to work in a specific location, but her motivation finally is okay. The full picture would be a medium role readiness. She is not ready yet fully for a very specific role we had in mind in this analysis. And finally, the 10th new trend is the fact that when you deal with top level assessment, leadership is not anymore an individual sport, it's a team sport. And what really matters is the top team effectiveness, the ability of a top team to operate as an effective leadership team. And we know also how to measure top team effectiveness. It's a combination of team talent around the table, combined with a shared level of leadership, combined with trust, which is necessary among the team, combined with the team dynamic, combined with the team cohesion, combined with the team strategic alignment. And we can position a team across 4 levels of performance in terms of top team effectiveness, starting with step 1, which would be having the right talent around the table, the right level of diversity. Step 2, sharing leadership and having a level of trust among the team members. Step 3, having the right team dynamic. Step 4, having the right team cohesion. And finally, this is a structure of a top team assessment report in 4 parts. We would have very precise indication on the level of diversity and quality of skills around the table in this team. In chapter 2, we would have a very clear indication about the team dynamic and cohesion. In chapter 3, we would be very precise about what's the strategic alignment of the team. And in chapter 4, as a conclusion, we would have an assessment of the ability of the team to deliver performance. And this is an illustration of some graphs we would include in our team assessment reports, like in the upper left, the comparison between the as-is culture of the team and the to-be culture, meaning that the team would be aligned on the fact that they want to change and drive the culture in a specific direction. You would have in the middle indications about the decision-making style of the team, because you have people who are more intuitive decision makers and others who are more reasoned decision makers. In the upper right, you would have the hard skills assessment, both on expertise and experience of each members of the team. In the bottom right, for example, you would have the ability of the team to manage conflict with 3 different types of conflict management. And on the bottom left part, for example, of the chart, you would have the dynamic and cohesion balance in the team perceived by each member of the team. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you. And maybe you have questions, or maybe later, I don't know.
Hello, thank you very much, Philippe, for sharing all this information. If you can go to the, let's say, to the all those 10 directions, yeah, the last, I think it's the last, yes, this one, the new trends, just to have it on here on the screen while we continue our conversation. I have one question for you, and then we'll pick one question that Alex Collins share with us for you. My question is, when you are trying to find a fit in a company by proposing an executive search position, can you do them both? Can you do the assessment of an executive, but also assess his future team and just have it like a combined?
Absolutely. I can give you a concrete example. Please. You know that Paris and France won the Olympic Games organization for 2024. We had a president of our organization committee, Tony Estanguet, who is an Olympic champion, and the President Macron wanted Tony to be the president of the organization committee, but he was the only guy a few, let's say 1 year ago, in an organization that would, at the end of the process, have 50,000 people on board to organize the Olympic Games. And we had to choose the number 2 of the organization, the CEO of the organization, working with the president. And the 2 of them had to work together to build a team of 50,000 people. And the president, the prime minister, the mayor of Paris, and the Olympic Games committee did not agree on the name of this CEO. So I suggested, after 6 months of fight, a methodology to help President Macron to make a final decision. I said, you need two things to select the CEO of the future organization committee. You need somebody who would fit from a cultural point of view with the president, exactly, because they need to want to build the same organization together. But at the same time, you need somebody who is as much as possible different and complementary from the president, because you want them to be stronger, both of them, and not to be clones. And the methodology was accepted. I assessed through client fit the 70 candidates for the role. And we were lucky enough that one of them, who is now the CEO of the organization committee and working for you for 2024, was dominating the 69 other candidates on both dimensions. He was the closer to Tony from a cultural point of view, and he was the most opposite to Tony in terms of skills. And the decision was made overnight, and we had an agreement of everybody on this name.
Nice. So very nice example. And what I really liked about this number 10 is that there are a lot of situations where you select a candidate that fits maybe the executive team or the vision of a CEO, but actually, or the president, but you don't fit him in his team. And then Absolutely. He will have to work with the team and to convince them and to share the vision. And this will be a lot of wasted time just because you didn't check the team effectively.
Absolutely. And I am a rugby player, so I know that performance is a team sport.
So, Philippe, we also have some questions from the participants. I will start with Alex's one. And the question sounds like this. Did you see any difference between an introvert and an extrovert on this cultural fit? So it's a question about the cultural fit and the potential for a high performance. So difference between an extrovert and an introvert on this cultural fit and the potential for a high performance.
Yes, there is a direct connection between the model I presented and the concept of extraversion, introversion, both at individual leadership level and at organizational level, because you can have introverted or extraverted organizations, companies. But no, there is no correlation between extraversion, introversion, and leadership potential. That's a mistake which is done by too many assessment tools who have a tendency to prefer extrovert individuals and rank them with a better score. Our study with 7 million leaders globally demonstrates that you can have the same level of leadership potential being an introvert and being an extrovert.
Yeah, this is also what I've known from, I've studied sociology and checked on this topic, and in terms of potential, in terms of skills, you can develop them even if you're an extrovert or an introvert.
And usually you would have other qualities if you are an introvert, and your impact on the strategy would be equivalent.
Yeah. Another question from Bogdan. Bogdan wants to know if, by any chance, working with different teams and applying the assessment before pandemics and in the present, have you registered significant differences between assessments results when we work in office or working from home?
No, we still have the same results, which are very robust. And as I told you, our methodology can be 100% digital. So we still have face-to-face interviews, of course, but we may conduct the whole process digitally in distance, and it has no impact on our conclusions. But yes, the pandemic had a huge impact on the assessment business, because in fact, companies who were in the process of slowly changing their culture, slowly assessing the leaders for tomorrow and taking a time frame of 2-3 years to do it, came back to us and said, okay, we have no time anymore. What we plan to do in 3 years, we need to do it in 6 months. How can we do it?
Yeah. So thank you very much. Thank you for this insightful talk. So there are only 10. There are only 10 new trends. And I think those trends are systemically shared in also other parts of what it means development and what it means leadership, not just with executive search. So it's the same. It's cultural fit, soft skills a lot, having a nice tool and a good tool, and thinking about the team, and also discuss about of the future and the leadership potential. So thank you, Philippe, again.
You're very welcome.
And we'll talk soon.